I thought I had scored the deal of the year. 7 nights, balcony cabin, under $400 per person. It felt like I had outsmarted the system, cruising for less than the cost of a decent hotel. But by day 3, that genius move was starting to unravel. The cabin walls were paper thin, the entertainment was, let's just say, ambitious, and every time I tried to relax, there was another upcharge, another line, and another moment where I caught myself thinking, is this really what I signed up for? It wasn't one big disaster, it was 100 small frustrations that added up to something I didn't expect. Regret. Not because the cruise was terrible, but because I booked it for the wrong reason. And if you're thinking about grabbing the cheapest cruise deal you can find, this story might save you from making the same mistake. Hey y'all, I'm Evan with Family at Sea, where we help make every cruise unforgettable. And today, I'm going to show you how chasing the cheapest cruise deal ended up being one of the dumbest decisions I've ever made at sea. Now, this was back before I started this channel, before I really knew what I was doing. I'd been on a few cruises, sure, but I still saw price as the ultimate win. If it looked cheap and the photos looked decent, that was good enough for me. So when I stumbled across this 7-night itinerary for what felt like pocket change, I didn't overthink it. Balcony cabin, decent route, and a ship I'd heard of but knew nothing about. I booked it on the spot and felt like I just outsmarted the entire cruise industry. But what I didn't realize was that booking the cheapest option doesn't just save you money. It often comes with trade-offs that won't show up until you're already stuck at sea. From the second we stepped on board, the vibe was off. It felt like everything, the service, the food, even the passengers were running on fumes. And by day 3, I realized something I never forgot. I didn't book a cruise I'd love, I booked a price tag I couldn't resist. That mistake shaped the entire experience. So in this video, I'm gonna break down what actually went wrong, and it wasn't just about cutting corners. The hidden trade-offs buried inside too good to be true pricing, and how to cruise smart on a budget without falling into the same trap I did. Because if you're thinking about grabbing that amazing deal you just found, well, let's talk first. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. Let me walk you through the mindset I had back then. I wasn't looking for the best cruise, I was looking for the best bargain. And this deal felt like highway robbery in the best possible way. I found it on one of those third-party sites with a flashing countdown clock, the fake 10 people viewing this right now banner, and a price so low I figured I must have caught a mistake. The itinerary looked decent, a few beachy stops, a few sea days, and a ship I vaguely remembered from an old commercial. When I showed it to my wife, I was like, we're basically getting a week of vacation for what most people spend on a weekend getaway. It felt like I had cracked the code. Evan, I would have booked it too. That price sounds unreal. That's what I thought. I wasn't asking for much, just a clean cabin, warm weather, and a few decent meals. I figured people who spent thousands were just paying for the fluff. What I didn't realize is how much of that fluff is what makes a cruise feel like a vacation. I didn't compare ships, I didn't read reviews, I didn't care about the ship's age or size or layout. I just saw a deal, skimmed a few sunny stock photos, and booked it. And at first, I felt like a genius. And then we boarded. The atrium looked like it hadn't been updated since I was in college. There were people yelling at the crew at guest services 5 minutes after boarding, and the music was cranked up like they were trying to drown out the chaos. And right away, the whole vibe felt off. Still, I told myself, it's just one day, settle in, it'll get better. Well, it didn't. And here's what I didn't understand at the time, and what no booking site is going to tell you. The price doesn't just reflect your cabin, it reflects everything. The crew staffing levels, the entertainment budget, the ship's age, the type of passengers it attracts, the little details that shape how the whole cruise feels. And you don't see any of that when you're staring at a low price and a sunny photo of a sweet balcony you didn't even book. But that's the trap. The cheaper the deal, the more you risk walking onto a ship that just isn't built to give you the kind of experience you were hoping for. It didn't take long for the hidden costs to start creeping in. Sure, the cruise was cheap on paper, but once we got on board, it became clear how much wasn't included in that price. The buffet felt like it was stocked by someone who lost a bet. Soggy pasta, mystery meat, and desserts that somehow all tasted like freezer burn. The main dining room, well, it wasn't terrible, but the menu looked like it hadn't changed in years, and the staff was clearly overwhelmed. Pool loungers, half were broken, and the other half were locked down with cow squatters who parked at sunrise and vanished until dinner. And the entertainment, well, imagine a high school talent show with better lighting. But what really stood out was how transactional everything felt. On a bottle of water, that's extra. Room service, there's a fee for that. Decent coffee, you'll find that at the Upcharge Cafe. Evan, It sounds like they designed the whole ship just to upsell you on everything. That's exactly how I felt. I don't mind paying for extras when they're actual extras, but this wasn't that. This was stuff that used to come standard, now broken apart, repackaged, and sold back to us like it was some kind of upgrade. The crew was doing their best, but you could see the exhaustion on their faces. The lines were long, the service was rushed, and everything felt like it was one step away from falling apart. And by the middle of the cruise, I realized something important. I wasn't relaxing. I wasn't having fun. I was just trying to get through it, dodging charges, managing expectations, and hoping that each day will be better than the last. And that's the moment it clicked. I didn't just get a cheap cruise. I got a cut down, corner cutting version of a cruise, and I paid for it in frustration. By day 5, I wasn't even mad anymore. I was just tired of trying to convince myself I was still on vacation, tired of the lines, the noise, the constant nickel and diming, tired of pretending this was fun when deep down I knew I had made the wrong call. The breaking point wasn't some dramatic moment. Honestly, it was pretty stupid. We had just gotten back from port and I wanted to grab a quick bite. Everything was either closed, packed, or charging for something that would have been free on literally any other ship I had sailed before. So I ended up back in the buffet, standing in line for pizza that tasted like regret and cafeteria cheese. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't on the cruise I wanted. I was on the cruise I settled for. Evan, at that point, why didn't you just try to make the best of it? Believe me, I tried. I kept telling myself, at least I'm out at work, or hey, we're still at sea, but deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't just a budget cruise, it was a budget experience. And I had dragged my wife along for it thinking I was being smart. And that was the worst part. It wasn't just that I didn't enjoy the trip, it was knowing that I had sold her on this plan, that we'd have a relaxing week together, that it would still be a real cruise even if it didn't cost much. But I had picked the ship for the price. That was it. I didn't care about the onboard experience. I didn't research the entertainment, the food, the crowd, the ship's layout, the reputation, none of it. I saw the number and told myself that's good enough. But here's the thing, cruising isn't just about the price, it's about fit. The ship, the itinerary, the vibe, it all matters. Because when any one of those things is off, it throws the whole trip out of balance. And this cruise was a perfect example of that. The ship didn't match what we wanted, the vibe didn't match our pace, the food did not match the promise. And the price, that was the only thing that made sense because it was the only part I had actually prioritized. The regret wasn't just that the cruise was bad, it was that I knew better, or at least I should have. If I could go back and rebook that cruise, I wouldn't necessarily spend much more. I'd just book smarter. Today, I still look for great deals, but now I know what actually makes a cruise worth it. And spoiler alert, it's not just saving a couple $100 up front. I start with the experience I want first and then work backward. Do I want a relaxing week with my wife where we don't have to fight for a seat by the pool? Do I want great food that doesn't cost extra every time we sit down? Or do I want a ship that actually fits our vibe, not just one that fits our budget? Once I know the kind of cruise I'm looking for, I narrow it down by ship, not cruise line, ship. Because even within the same brand, there are ships I'd happily book again and ships I wouldn't touch for free. And from there, I look at the full picture, onboard perks, passenger reviews, service levels, cabin locations, and what's actually included. That's the kind of booking strategy that keeps me from ending up on another week-long regret. But yet, it's a lot to think through. Evan, this sounds like a full-time job just to pick the right cruise. I hear you, and that's exactly why I don't do it alone anymore. That one cheap cruise taught me something I've carried with me ever since. When it comes to planning a trip, you either pay for it with money or you pay for it with your time, energy, and sanity. Now, I'd rather lean on people who do this all day long. A great travel agent knows the ships, the layouts, and the hidden perks, the don't book this room unless you like hearing deck chairs being dragged at 6 a.m. kind of stuff. And they know how to steer you toward value, not just a low number on a website. It took one bad cruise for me to realize booking cheap is easy. Booking smart is what actually makes all the difference. And above all, I learned it pays to have someone in your corner who's looking out for you, especially when you're not looking out for yourself. Which is exactly why now we always book through Cruises It. A great travel agent isn't there just to make the booking, they're there to make sure you're getting the best experience on board, starting with the right cabin in the right spot. And the best part, not only can they help you choose the perfect cruise, but they can hook you up once you find it as well. We're talking better rates, extra perks, and exclusive offers you won't find by booking direct. Plus, with their low price guarantee, I can rest easy knowing I'm not leaving money or my sanity on the table. It's like they know a guy who knows a guy who once saved $1,000 just because he booked on a Tuesday. Total legend, that Tony. If you want someone who actually has your back, click the link in the description below if you prefer to book on your own, or call the number on the screen and tell them Evan from Family at Sea sent you. You'll be glad you did. There was one more lesson I learned on that cruise, something just as important as booking the right ship or avoiding hidden costs. It was about mindset, because the truth is, I didn't just set myself up for disappointment by picking the wrong cruise, I made it worse by bringing the wrong expectations with me. I went into that trip expecting the version of the cruise I saw in the marketing, the polished videos, the brochure perfect moments, the always smiling crew and spotless decks. But that version of the cruise only existed in my head. And when reality didn't match it, I let that frustration color everything. What I've realized since then is that your mindset before you step on board matters more than most people think. These days, I board every ship with one goal: to find the good. I go in with low expectations, not because I think the cruise will be bad, but because I've learned that the less you demand from an experience, the more joy you're able to find in it. Evan, that's honestly a great mindset for life, not just cruises, right? Because no cruise is perfect. Even the expensive ones have their flaws, but if you go into the trip expecting everything to be flawless, you'll miss the stuff that actually makes cruising fun. The little moments that aren't in the brochure. Since that bad cruise, I've tried to approach every trip with curiosity instead of judgment and gratitude instead of entitlement. And every time I found something to love, even on ships I probably wouldn't sail again. Mindset doesn't fix long lines or a soggy buffet, but it does fix the part that matters most: your ability to actually enjoy the time you've got. And that, more than anything, is what turned things around for me. So yeah, that cruise was rough. Not because the ship was falling apart or the itinerary was terrible, but because I booked it for all the wrong reasons. I brought the wrong expectations and didn't know how to spot the red flags. And the crazy part? That one bad cruise might have been the most important one I've ever taken. It taught me how to book smarter, how to cruise with the right mindset, and how to stop chasing the cheapest deal and start chasing the right experience for me and my family. Now the good news, you don't have to make the same mistake. You're already way ahead of where I was. You know what to look for. You know how to avoid the traps, and you know how much your mindset can shape the trip before you even step on board. But the bad news, even if you dodge the booking mistakes, avoid the upcharges, and set your expectations in the right place, it's still really easy to waste money during your cruise if you're not paying attention. From drink packages to Wi-Fi upgrades to spa deals that are anything but, there are traps waiting on board that most passengers never even realize. That's why in this next video, I'm showing you how to make a budget cruise feel like first class with smart hacks, hidden perks, and simple upgrades that actually add value without blowing your budget. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.